Hi, everyone, and thank you for being here. It's always nice to see everyone here on a Friday evening. Just a quick introduction to Curious Crow. Curious Crow is a platform that we at Oorjaa started in 2019 as an exploration of our own byline, which is live lightly. And there are many interpretations of live lightly, which is what makes this platform exciting. From materials to design to the way we live to behavior. So it's actually it so we do these discussions once every 2 months. And if those of you who are not on our mailing list as yet, I think there's a register outside as you go out. So please put yourself on the mailing list so you know every time we have a talk. Um, we at Oorjaa actually also explore, I mean, the core of our business is lighting, but we explore circularity through material and design. We design with materials that are all natural, but they are all waste from some other system. And in our designs, we sort of increase its value in the process of bringing back to the market. So it's a space that we really hope to have in, exciting conversations and for with out of the box thinkers. And we have three such out of the box thinkers today who are still small setups with big ideas, which is actually where all of us need to be. That's yeah. Those are, and I think we live in exciting times. Um, so as Sudaina said, we're discussing two materials today, which is both part of the problem and part of the solution: plastics and lithium ion. We certainly can't ignore the role they play in our economy because they are important materials, but we cannot ignore the potentially destructive role that they play in the natural systems the world over. And when you dig a little deeper, you see that it's not that the material is not just it's not just a material that's the crux of the issue. It is design and it is consumer behavior, consumer indifference actually. And these materials, because these materials are basically the tools that a designer uses, and we've been designing for a linear economy, which is basically make, use, and throw. And we as consumers, we've been very happy to go along. Let me quickly tell you a personal story, actually, which I drive a when I'm in Bangalore, I drive a tiny EV. I will not name it, but it was the batteries. I mean, when you buy it, they tell you battery life is 5 years old, and at the end of 5 years, like on the dot, suddenly the car just gave up the ghost, and I was stuck somewhere. Fortunately, it was close to home, and we pushed it home. And so I called up the service station. I said, this is a problem. And he said, oh, how old is the car? And I said 5 years old. And they said, oh, then yeah, it's over. So and he said, but unfortunately, we've stopped making this particular model. And so I said, oh, so what should I do with the car? And he said, maybe you've got to junk it. And then I threw up a blue fit. I said, I'm not junking a 5-year-old car. You can't do this. And anyway, to cut a long story short, I made a huge. I also lied and said I'm a journalist and I'm going to you know push. And then finally they said that they would recondition the battery. And 5 years later, today I'm still driving. So and that's because I insisted. Otherwise, they'd have made me throw the car 5 years ago. So it only tells us actually the less obvious part of this entire ecological crisis we're going through is design and the consumer behavior. How can the consumers perceive things, how they just accept what's told to them, and so at the design stage, the responsibility of designers is to actually plan for the end of the life of their products, and it is actually doable because very often, firstly, there's a lot of life left into products, but also as consumers, we've got to be aware of this. We've got to demand certain things, and the market always responds to demand. So and we've got to demand that our products are designed for circularity. That's what we're going to discuss today with three people who are actually, like I said, innovators, first movers in second life spaces, which is nice. And they're doing what few people are even, they're doing it before most of us are even thinking about it. So um, let me invite them one by one to come and do a short presentation. So should we start with Vishal?
I think we all agree that plastic waste is a problem and needs a solution. Yes? Yes. Now, when you're trying to solve one problem, a innovator thinks more than that. So, if you're solving one problem, what if you try to solve more than one problem and solve another problem also? A tall ask that plastic waste itself is a problem, and then you are solving that problem, you're trying to solve one more problem. What are you talking about? So, I'll introduce my company, Unwood. So basically, we have created a new category of material. This material is has the strength of wood, has the workability like wood. So basically, we have created a wood in a laboratory using plastic waste. So we are solving two problems now. We are solving the plastic waste problem because we are capturing plastic waste, and then we are solving a deforestation problem because we are replacing wood. So you don't cut wood for the need of materials. That's what we do. So a little bit of what is the material? I mean, we say it replaces wood. So this material is scientifically called as macromolecular fiber matrix. So in Unwood, we are two founders. Dr. Babu is sitting here, and he's the scientific brain behind this. So he holds about 150 patents and holds about 30 inventions. So one of his invention is this material, and this material, when formed in our factory, in our very specialized proprietary equipment, gives the strength of wood. So wood is God's natural material and has really good strength. It has a fractural modulus which exceeds 6 gigapascals, and we have that flexural strength in this material, and that too created from plastic waste. That's the beauty. And what actually, people just don't want a solution, but they want solution which benefits them. Only then they will buy. So what then we tell to people is that, listen, we created this material for your outdoor spaces. There is a terrible problem for having materials, using materials outdoors. You have rust issues, you have ultraviolet fading issues, you have moisture damage, you have breakage, stability. So we need a material which can be used outdoors, and especially after COVID, people want to spend time outdoors. So there is a demand for that. So now we want to solve a problem and have people use something which is functional to them, and that's how we solve these two problems, deforestation and plastic waste management. Every metric ton of unwood that we create, so the material is branded as unwood. It's kept over there, you can see that. So it's branded as unwood because we want to stop using wood as much as possible, not cut trees. And every metric ton of unwood saves about 1.5 fully grown tree, which takes more than 10 to 15 years to mature, and it captures about 500 to 600 kg of plastic waste in that. I'll just take you through a short video. So yeah, using this, we create various products for outdoor. And so these are some of the photographs of the product used across the country. So we like ship these products from Delhi, Kolkata, and entire South India, Chennai, Goa, Hyderabad, and they're used for commercial purpose. Many of these customers don't even know that it's plastic waste. This is how architects use our material in situ applications. They make picket fence, and it can be machined. You can see those shapes. So it can machine like wood, and it can be painted as well for preschools and all. And yeah, a lot of media attraction and attention globally. We've been awarded a grant from IKEA Foundation through a European body of climate KIC. It's specially for one of our programs called Benches for Change. So in this program, we actually work with NGOs, non-profit CSRs, and governments to install school benches made out of unwood in the schools which deserve to have school benches. And this program is quite encouraging because when you install the school benches, students get the bench which they need, but at the same time the first lecture that happens in that classroom is worth listening. They first question what is this bench, and the teacher explains about recycling, sustainability, and deforestation. That's more important to us than the product and then what we are doing, because the kids use something about sustainability and become aware about the problem and its solutions that's available. And it's extremely important, this awareness, and that's why this grant was very encouraged to support us. We solve plastic waste problem. Save trees, and then it's a manufacturing company. So in a manufacturing company, you manufacture products, so you generate employment. You have upstream channels, like you will listen to Plastics for Change. We consume plastic waste, so there are people who are gathering plastic waste. So there is an ecosystem which works downstream. Artisans like carpenters and all. It creates a lot of job opportunities. So it's basically a solution to multiple problems in one. And I think, thank you all. We This is not just any longer just a laboratory. We are a commercial product. We sell commercially. We are available on e-commerce. So we really want to scale this product, because the more unwood sells, the more plastic waste we capture and the more trees we save. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jenny, for the apt introduction. I think you have done half of my work by giving your journey using an electric car. And probably the three key words I would like to pick from her story to explain what we do, it would be that the battery lasts longer than one expects. The key is resource efficiency, and then consumer behavior or consumer awareness around lithium-ion batteries. So as a company, we started with a DIY idea somewhere around 2017-16 period, where we just struck upon an idea that, oh, probably these laptop batteries, which I guess most of you still have in your cupboards, not discarded it, where one of those cells, usually there are 3 or 6 cells in our laptop batteries before, where even if one cell goes weak, we usually discard. So these cells are like a chain link, right? One of them is a weak link, then you discard. So we, like in any of these community activities, somebody spoke about it. We thought should take a look at why is this happening. We studied lithium-ion battery a bit, and we realized that just like human beings, when lithium-ion cells rather are manufactured, just within the same batch, all the cells are not identical, just like 100 human beings in a room. So as they age, when they are used, they age differently. So in a group, few cells age faster, a few maybe still lasting longer, primarily because these are built out of natural materials and they're very, very minute variations, unlike a pharmaceutical product which is synthesized. So it essentially means that we are looking at a problem where when you have a car full of batteries or a bus full of batteries, then you have a few which age faster, and hence an automotive company or automotive consumer declares it to be not usable for that purpose. But as a resource, they have, if not 5, maybe 8, 10 years of life left in them. So we cannot afford to recycle them per se. So slight comparison with plastic, it has the same challenge of reverse logistics, but since there is intrinsic value which can be derived, there is reverse logistics possible. However, weight is still a concern. On top of it, when you want to achieve this purpose of repurposing, then there is circularity by design. I think she mentioned about it as well. Unfortunately, most of the vehicles or batteries designed till date or ones which are on the road, the batteries are not designed for circularity. It takes a lot of effort to extrapolate these good cells out of the pack and rebuild them. However, this is a journey for all of us and for the automotive companies, so we're working with them. But end of the day, an asset worth 100 rupees as a template could be rebuilt into a product which is again sold for maybe 55 rupees and runs for another 5 years. On contrary, the cells which we use today in our vehicles hardly give you a return of 1% if you scrap. To give you an example, probably the most sold car is Tata Nexon EV. Probably the battery weighs about 200-250 kgs, and the recycling rate for lithium-ion cell, a particular chemistry called LFP, is somewhere around 25 to 45 rupees per kg. So essentially, if you are somewhere in a town which is 300-400 kilometers away from a recycling center, the reverse logistics cost is equal to the battery itself. So which means you as a consumer, after 7-8 years, you are wondering that, hey, if I had an ICE vehicle, I would recover some 2 lakh 3 lakh rupees of residual value if you had to scrap it. But in a car, you hardly, I mean, from a battery which is supposed to be 40% 50% of the cost, you are able to probably collect 1,000 rupees for an ice cream. So this is the magnitude of the problem we are talking about when we are trying to transform our mobility into electric vehicles, or the other ways, the hidden challenge of batteries from a circularity point of view. So in our journey, we try to understand how to achieve circularity, because the moment, let's say some of you want to offer batteries, I need to be able to assess the quality, the safety, and the life it has before I give it back to some of you to use it as your, a battery for your home, office, whatnot. So the entire process involves not only companies like ours. I'm sure the volume of batteries which are going to come our way, we need hundreds of hours to be actually consuming these batteries, but also the OEM, the end consumer, the government, everybody must get involved. Only then we are going to achieve true circularity. So I'll just walk you through what we have done so far, and maybe talk to you all more during the FAQ. So, as she rightly pointed out, these vehicles, I mean, these batteries do have a significant long life. To give you an example, you might have all seen blue smart vehicles all across, right, in Bangalore and few other cities. So some of their usually the EV cabs run about 200 to 300 kilometers a day. So they end up, covering their warranty in maybe 30 months or 36 months. So in 3 years or 3.5 years, these batteries are out of warranty, and as businesses, they would offload it. So we picked some of these battery packs and repurpose them, and there I will show you some examples. They are powering few villages now for last 2 years. So that's the quality, or that's the inherent asset value these have. And on what you see on the right is probably one of our first set of products. And to give you a reference against a lead acid battery, one of those this is a modular setup. So one of those batteries are equivalent to 10 lead acid batteries. So now you can imagine the volume a lead acid battery would have in a room, the weight it has, and also the other challenges of sulfuric acid gases in the room. So that way, lithium-ion batteries, very good. 5-8 years ago, they were probably 10 times more expensive than what it is today. But nonetheless, we are going to use a lot of batteries, but building for circularity is key for all of us. So this is our initial set of prototypes. We are fortunate to get some support from Audi, the German car company, where we started off with laptop cells, as I mentioned, built some systems, give it to street vendors, and I think, if I had backtracked the asset, the cells we procured were from the e-waste, manufactured in 2011 or 12. We got it in 2019, and the street hawkers used it for 2 more years. And this guy who was supported by Selco, maybe many of you know, Selco used to collect 5 rupees per day from the equipment. He used to sub rent it to other chat or fruit vendors. So then we, with the support of Audi, we further enhanced our abilities to build larger systems. So now we've deployed a few in telecom towers. And we also tried to take an Audi premium car battery pack and have it in a rickshaw. as an experiment, which also worked. And now we've also deployed EV charging stations um, down in the rural areas where they charge using solar and enable the local ecosystem to use two-wheeler EVs. So in general, this is a very quick overview of our process. As I briefly mapped, we get vehicle batteries, we grade and sort them, because not every cell or every group of cells is usable for the same application. So the gray shade. So we have that whole loop where everything is digitally tracked. And we in fact even go one step ahead, and we work with the auto OEM to track the aging of the batteries while it is used in EV, so that the health-based decision making can be done efficiently. So far, we've had some 100+ installations all across the country. About whatever, let's say, a good chunk of material or vehicles which are sold 2019, 2021 in the EV fleet case, which have reached end of life, we have repurposed, mostly from Tata vehicles. And maybe if you have read in the newspaper 2 days ago, one of our installations near Bangalore airport got inaugurated by the energy minister, where we collect energy from solar and power EV charging stations, where it's completely green, no coal-based power used to charge the vehicles in the BESCOM installation. So this is one group where we power about 10+ villages entirely off grid. They don't have grid at all. So they are 100% dependent on a solar microgrid. Almost each site probably has about 2 to 3 cars worth batteries repurposed. And the oldest site we have is running around 2.5 years. And there is a social sensitivity here. I mean, the company which works here, Melinda, has a person looking after the grid, and if there is no power, people come and hit him. So thankfully, so far last 2.5 years, we have not heard this incident, but earlier it happened. So because the entire, you will see a small video, the entire village is dependent. It's a Naxal prone area. So grid is a challenge for the government, but we are happy that we were able to enable at least about 80 to 100 small homes. So although, I mean, this is a rural use case, nonetheless, we also have customers here in Bangalore who have gone completely off grid. They use, so far from data, we see that almost till 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning, they are able to run completely on solar and battery. For those 2-3 hours, they sometimes have to use the grid if they're running some fans or AC. But otherwise, good bunch of them are completely off grid. And even backup solutions people have picked up. Telecom we briefly discussed, and this is the Bangalore airport installation. So yeah, that's a brief. And lastly, from a consumer awareness point of view, if either any of you are buying EVs, you should ask this question about what are you going to do about the battery to the OEMs in other forums, because this awareness is extremely important. And even with laptops, we have wasted a lot of resources. Why? Firstly, we don't recycle them effectively. Secondly, it was not worthy to be recycled. It should have been repaired and reused in the same application for a longer period, like Jenny did. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to be here. Nice to see some familiar faces as well. So yeah, thank you, Jenny, for inviting. So I'll just start with our, Plastics for Change, as Jenny was talking about, literally was a concept. Our founder, CEO, Andrew Almack, started in his college. He wanted to develop an eco-label back in the day. I think that was 2011, when he wanted to develop an eco-label for plastics to see where the plastic is ending up. Is it environmentally friendly? Are people collecting it back? And that's how the concept started. And what we do, we have two main mission statements. One, we want to help people at the bottom of the supply chain move up the ladder and come out of poverty. We want to help them. And second is we want to work with brands to help them transition away from the dependency on fossil-based plastic to a more recycled, to more circular economy. So those are the two mission statements that we work on. Yeah, that was a small introduction of our entire supply chain, right from collection through to the recycling, and how we are enabling product to product recycling. What is product to product? How a bottle can become back into a bottle, how like a shampoo bottle can become back into a shampoo bottle, how can, let's say, a phone case become back into a phone case. This is what we are trying to enable in the supply chain. So how are we different? Like I said, there are many firsts. We are the world's first working at scale organization who received a World Fair Trade Organization certification. We are in their guarantee system. I think that was way back in the day. Miriam was also there, 2019. And then we are a B Corp certified organization. Not just that, then we have the ocean bound certification. We collect most of the plastic in the coastal areas of India, and now recently we have also ventured into Philippines and small island nations. And then the ocean bound social plus, where we also need to show verifiable actions on ground where we are uplifting people. So not just that, not just in terms of compliance and certifications, but we give a lot of emphasis to quality. When we are talking about recycling, I think like Vishal and Darshan mentioned, I think quality is of primary importance to brands. They want the highest quality material, right? So all our centers and at the recycling facilities, we follow ISO systems of quality assurance. So every material that's picked up, there is some kind of a quality assurance built into it. And then obviously, you saw the social impact. It's just not about collection. It's just not about producing some recycled content or recycled products, but how can we do that inclusively? How can we make that more inclusive in the entire supply chain? So we go beyond the call of duty. Our programs are structured in such a way that the social component is built in right from the bottom up, right? So you saw the waste pickers, and I'll come to that. We enable them. We work with the communities to ensure that they are taken care of, their health and safety, awareness on financial literacy, many interventions that we do to include them in the journey. And traceability. So this is a question to all of you. When you hold a water bottle or any product, do you know where it comes from? It mentions recycled. But have you ever asked as a consumer, where does that water bottle, shampoo, or whatever the plastic that you're holding come from? So that's where I think consumer awareness plays a major role. And there are reports, and we have seen it through our own experience now, that when consumers demand, when consumers ask, the brands also change. The brands, they want to include more recycled content, and recycled content from a verifiable, traceable source stock. That is what the change is happening, and we are happy to be part of this. And we want to definitely scale it up. So here are some of the numbers. We have so far collected about 45,700 tons, and this is growing by the day. We have touched about 18,000 odd lives, and we work with 1,000 plus scrap shops, kabadiwalas, across the country. And they're all on a traceable platform, which means that we'll be able to show you who those 1,000 scrap shops are, who are those lives that we have touched, the beneficiary details. So there is a complete transparency and traceability built into the system. Yes, I would like to just pause here. I would like to also share a inspiring and an interesting story of this lady, Hanumava. We have been working with her for the last 2 years now. She was a waste picker, and the story is from Bangalore. She was a waste picker. She was in debt. You can imagine, it's not a fun life at all. So we started a program called Women Empowerment Program in our communities in Bangalore region. And she was interested. We saw the spark in her eyes, and we enrolled her into the program. And today, she has become an entrepreneur. She runs her own scrap shop. She has bought a car, and she earns about 30 to 35,000 a month. And not just that, she's now employing about 4 to 5 women in her scrap shop. And she wants to continue the journey with us. She's helping us in one more stream of plastic. We call it as, the polyolefin plastics. So she wants to help us understand how we can segregate better, and she wants to take that back to the community, to other kabadiwalas and scrap shops, and ensure that the recycling is kind of getting that boost. So I'll just play this video. That's Hanumava's story. Like I was talking about, our mandate is to work in the coastal areas. Right now, we are working in about 11 sites, 10 or 11 sites. One is missing there, Mysore. And then we have recently started operations in Philippines. We would like to continue this, helping small island nations to recover plastics better and aid in recycling. Not just that, like I said, our programs are quite inclusive in that nature. So the first picture that you see on your left top is from Bangalore again, way back in 2021. We built the world's first, or Karnataka's first, recycled house made of recycled plastic. All the boards that you see are from MLP, multi-layered plastics, typically your chip packets, biscuit packets, etc. And that's Kamala. She was a civic worker, basically, who used to live under just a tarpaul. And you can imagine how the life is in the coastal regions, especially in summer and monsoon. So, and shelter is a basic human necessity. So we thought, why not take this, problem as a challenge, and how can we support? So further, the one that you see, we scaled this project in Dharwad, Chennai, Pondicherry, and so far we have built about 30 plus row houses for waste picker, for the waste picker community. And then the e-tricycles. So that is another project that we are working on. So how can we empower waste pickers to, double their income, increase their income opportunities by providing the necessary infrastructure and aid. Not just aid, but how can we provide infrastructure and the necessary training for them to double their incomes. So Darshan, thank you. Maybe we'll work together. We are looking at now swappable batteries for our e-tricycles, right? So that, if a waste picker was collecting about, let's say, 80 to 100 kgs per day, can we empower them to double it? Maybe collect 200 kgs. So increase their catchment area using e-tricycles. So that's another project that we are working on. So far, we have distributed close to 20 odd e-tricycles across the coastal belt. Yeah, that's there. So finally, I want to say that Plastics for Change it's not just about recycling, or it's just not about a company. So we want this to be a movement where, the communities can thrive, and we can really support the planet in terms of making it truly circular, by collecting the plastic and making sure that it's used back again in the closed loop. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishal, Darshan, and Srinidhi. I thought that was really interesting. And I think what's probably the most interesting for me is how it sort of crosses over into a social, to have social benefits as well, not just environmental. And that's important because, especially in a country like India, I think the social poverty and the social aspect and livelihoods is as important. And very often in the whole environmental discussion, we tend to ignore that, or so actually it would be really, listening to all your three presentations, and I'm sure that's also in a lot of people's minds, is what motivated you. I mean, they're all sort of the road less traveled with all the, whatever you do. So what was the motivation person? Yeah, quickly, if you tell us, just yeah, can start with you, Vijay.
Hello. Yeah. So yeah, everyone has a story for their motivation. So prior to this, doing this, I was working for a multinational company where I was working with lot people from different nationalities, and there was a power plant that I was building in Rajasthan in the Bikaner district. It was a solar plant, and I used to go to site often and take a lot of expats with me to the site because there were international funds involved, and they loved the state of Rajasthan, but because of the beautiful desert roads. But all along the road, you will see plastic by the side, and it used to hurt me because plastic waste is a global problem, but we handle it even worse in India because people just throw it out of the window. And the reason is it has no value, and secondly, who will take care of the logistics in such a huge country, take it to a dustbin, collect it from the dustbin. So I was really looking for a solution, and create it into a valuable product, and that's when happened to meet Dr. Babu, who is here. And being the innovative scientist that he is, he had a solution for this different plastic waste. So that's where we had a meeting of a mind, that let me join you and form something where we can take this as a challenge and solve it for the people, take it to market. And even today, this is what keeps me running 24 by 7, that how can I capture more and more plastic waste, and put more and more these products in everybody's house. I want this product to be in every public place, every home, every institute, so that plastic becomes we solve this plastic problem and keep that material in circulation rather than you just using it and throwing it away.
Yeah, as Jenny mentioned, energy has a direct impact on quality of life, and it is probably one of the largest single driver to uplift people across the regions in India. And somewhere in 2015, 2016, I lost a colleague of mine where he was in a government hospital for a long time, and we lost the ventilator for 15 minutes. And one of the backup systems failed, and it was poorly maintained lead acid battery, and that was always hurting me that we could not have a stable backup system in a hospital. So few years down the line, I was in Singapore, and just after 6-8 months of working there, I started feeling that disconnect because there was no sense of purpose in what I was trying to do. Back home here, similar to these community activities, we always participated in impact driven activities. So that pulled me back that okay, energy as a problem statement is has a massive impact for our society. And as a DIY project, I was helping a friend explore this idea of repurposing, how to use these lithium-ion cells, because I knew how these cells work in the past. So it was energy plus sense of purpose and an idea which came together, and then I moved back to start explore further. I mean, there's no real intent that we make this into a big company and so on and so forth. But we just wanted to make it happen, and after 6-7 years, yeah, here we are.
Yeah. So for me, the similar story. We were on the field, and one of the kabaddi walas, and I saw, one of their children, small kid, and the kid was crying. So I asked the owner what happened. So he said, no, nothing. Then I said, okay, let's talk. What's wrong? So he said, no, we haven't got paid for about a week now. The traders just take the material. We have not got paid, so there's no food to put on the table for the family. So that got me thinking, and obviously the scale of the problem is something that always motivates me. It's a great opportunity to bring in that change. That we can impact people like Hanumawa. If we can put that smile back on their face, that's quite fulfilling.
Nice, inspiring, all three stories. But now let's get down to to the harder questions. Um, what happens at the end of life? I mean, I wanted to ask both about the what Unwood as well as the batteries. What happens at the end? I mean, y'all are taking it into its second life, but how much longer do what happens at the end of life of batteries? What happens at the end of life of Unwood? Yeah, you want to start, Vishal?
Yeah. So, firstly, for Unwood, we use commingled mixed low value plastic waste. So, these are plastic waste which are already very hard to recycle, and we are able to do it and give it a life which is like as long as our lifetime. It could last more than 30 years. But, and everybody has this doubt that, okay, you're doing this, but what happens at the end of its life? So, basically, we are happy to say that we can recycle it again. Why we can do it? When you try to process some plastic again, you tend to degrade it and you try
Yes.
to reduce its quality. But here's where what happens is that when you use heat and mechanical energy to process it, this plastic, you put unwanted heat into it. So you, some heat is intentional, but some heat is by the mechanical work that you do, like your mixer grinder at home. You try to crush your products, but you end up heating your product. You didn't intend to do it, but that happened because of electrical energy converting into work, and part of it got converted into unwanted heat. So our technology actually is called fractional conjugate geometry, which allows electrical energy to convert into high efficiency work and not unwanted heat. So we do not degrade our polymers, which allows it to remain in continuous circulation. So in my factory is a zero waste factory. When we make this profile like this and we convert by cutting into products, we have wastage. We take all this wastage, we process it again into Unwood, and we again make products, and we are able to take back our products. That's why we also do not put our products in road construction or somewhere where you cannot bring it out. We want to keep it where you can bring it out, you can dismantle it, and you can reprocess. The moment you fix it into a wall, cement wall, then it's difficult, you can't segregate. So
I'm going to come back for a little more explanation on that later. Yeah, okay.
Right. So theoretically, lithium-ion batteries are recyclable, but there are some practical challenges. The unit economics of recycling of lithium-ion batteries is still not viable globally. While there are many claims, it is still hard. Reverse logistics, as against the recoverable value of recycling, is poor, as I mentioned earlier. So one is the widespread use like plastics. Let's say we are going to be in the same situation maybe a few years down the line. Second, if you don't have enough value to bring it back, it's even more dangerous situation. So therefore, one, we can make the assumption that 5 years down the line, 8 years down the line, the recycling technology or the efficiency is going to improve. So yield will be better. However, the materials which are used or don't have high value. Like earlier, we used to use cobalt, which has high recycling value, but today the materials used due to scarcity of cobalt have very low value. So this problem of reverse logistics getting into the recycling plant is going to be there, like in any other use case. However, if we repurpose which is from a pure play financial model perspective, we can accommodate the reverse logistics cost after second life and as well as from EV in our financial model. That is where if we, as a community or as an ecosystem, if we repurpose, there is reverse logistics accounted on both sides, and you get usable stored energy for a few years. So there is a win-win. Unlike in other economies where people pay to get it recycled, here we have to pay to get the material. So uh, we can overcome this challenge and get it to recycling. And also the third indirect benefit is hopefully 5-6 years down the line, recycling efficiencies are higher. So by that time, until then, we will keep using these batteries per se. So, but they should get recycled.
You know what you're doing actually, Darshan, is this something that are we in this country doing this? Are we the first doing this, or is it happening somewhere else in the world as well?
So when we started in 2018, there's one more company in the US which is starting to attempt. While we attempted to build the product, they were attempting to build the testing methodologies. But in last 5-8 years, at least some 20 companies have come up
All
across
over the
globe.
world.
But this is not enough. We should
Of
probably
course, yeah,
need
yeah.
maybe a few thousand.
Yeah, considering that we are pushing EVs so much that this
Correct.
is not.
Not just EVs, right? I mean, you will now have batteries everywhere. You have these small AGV robots moving in
Yeah.
warehouses, etc. Except that phone batteries have same characteristics, just that unit economics don't work because of the small size of it. But the problem remains the same.
You know, speaking to both Srinidhi and Vishal over in different conversations, and I visited the Unwood factory. So yeah, just to give you a little bit, so the conversation with Vishal is that of all the high value plastic that they pick up, at least 20% is wasted because of for various reasons, color and different kind of plastic and 20% to me is really high if you're talking about recycling. When I visited Unwood, you know, they gave me a bag of mixed plastic, which was some of which was not even clean, and it all went into the machine and came out as, you know. So I just want to know is what they do, does that solve your problem?
Right, that's a very good question, Jenny. I would say we need to look at it from two perspectives, right? One is the effort being compensated there? And obviously, any activity in the supply chain which is complementary does help. Unwood is one example, then there's somebody else making bricks, pavers.
Yes.
But it comes back to unit economics and is the product market fit and is that viable? Plus, we can't do away with sorting. We need to concentrate on sorting because that's the primary, value creator in the entire supply chain. If anybody wants to put in more monies, I think we need to invest more monies in, sorting technologies. So if we can get the value at the source, I think that solves a lot of problems in the supply chain. Like I said, every brand that we want to work with, right? They want a specific kind of plastic and they want a specific quality of that plastic, right? So yeah, again, but to solve the larger problem of plastics, I think we would need multiple solutions like that.
Like this.
Yeah, and that helps the ecosystem.
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, just to explain, yeah, why they were able to put mixed plastic and unclean plastic into. So I'm going to quote actually what Dr. Babu said in one interview, and he said, the way humanity handles certain materials, especially plastics, has been fundamentally flawed. Complex plastic alloys and composite materials do not have the ability to fit into conventional approaches of recovery. As a result, something as durable and versatile as plastics becomes a pollutant. So I just wanted Vishal to explain that. If not, we'll ask Dr. Babu, who's sitting there.
Me and Dr. Babu are like thinking, so I can answer anything for him as well.
Okay.
See, plastic is a engineered material. It was created by humans from a particular process. So humans give it properties that they wanted. So when you wanted strength, you made a plastic which is strong. When you wanted flexibility, you made a plastic which is flexible. When you wanted UV resistant, you added additives. So basically, you have engineered it so much that there are multiple categories of plastics, and this all behave differently. For example, how steel behaves differently, wood behaves differently, plastics each behave. They are not just plastics. Your pet bottle is polyethylene terephthalate. Your kid's toy may be polypropylene. Your shampoo bottle may be HDPE. So, and then not only this, your TV screen, the plastic behind your TV could be multiple different alloys. LG might do it differently, Samsung might do it differently. When you mix this together and they're beyond identification, your chips packet is multi-layered plastic. So your chips packet itself has 7 different layers, including an aluminum layer. How will you sort this? Don't you think it's fundamentally flawed? Everything cannot be sorted. So then you need a solution where you can handle it without sorting, without segregating. And that's why we thought of a solution like Anur, that large portion of your plastics which cannot get segregated, what should we do with it? And that's the solution that Unwood provides. And with the scientific brain of Dr. Babu, to form a material which has properties which can replace virgin materials is upcycling. And when you upcycle, it solves the problem which Shini mentioned, that it has to have some value then. So if a product like this, when it is sold at some 3,000, 4,000 rupees, there is some income which should pay for the entire upstream cycle of logistics, everything. That's then it becomes a self-sustaining cycle. Then it don't need to be grants, or interventions may not be required, but it has to scale. Once it scales, it becomes self-sustaining, and then we solve that problem.
Actually, which segues into what was going to be my next question. How easy is it to scale each of your businesses? I mean,
So
right now, all of you are actually, yeah, it's all Bangalore based, all, yeah. So how easy is it to scale? Because actually, the world needs these solutions, but they have to be scalable and profitable.
yeah. So I see scalability in three terms. Firstly, supply side. Is there enough supply of such mixed plastic waste? Of course, yes. Second is demand side. Do people need products like this in the country? School benches, park benches, materials for outdoor? Yes, we have a huge demand. Third is the technology. So technology, Dr. Babu has another company which is called Steer World. They manufacture that machinery which we use. So we will manufacture more and more machinery. So basically, we have a vision that every district in this country should have an Unwood plant. Waste from that, whatever is unsorted, non-recyclable waste, should come there. We should create this material, create it into products for that community, and we are well poised to do that. I think it's only a matter of time. As this product picks up in the market, investors get interested, government gets interested. I mean, I am on WhatsApp discussion with IAS officers now. And last week, Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh invited us to a event in Andhra where they are making 18,000 Swachh Andhra parks, and these parks are going to be a model of circularity. So they want to use only sustainable products there. So it's going to pick up, and we are confident that it will scale not only in India but probably globally.
You want to?
Yeah. So again, same situation. You have abundant solar, you need energy. So supply and demand is available, and then it's all about now processing these batteries. So from day one, we knew that this is a challenge. It's a technological solution which allows scalability, and that is how we evolved as a company. To give you an example, let us say we tie up with Hyundai or Kia, and I'm sure they're selling the same car or the platform, which is probably multiple models in multiple countries. So once the process is tuned for Hyundai Kia, let's say 4 containers drag and drop in different place, you just get Kia that particular model batteries, and you get stationary storage products on the other end. So that's by design. That is how we imagined from day one, and that is how we are evolving. That you have whatever 15 OEMs, 35 cars, then you have configurable process systems, which are mostly data driven. It's not machinery change, but more software and process change through small robots or electrical equipment. But it's definitely scalable.
So Srinidhi, actually, that's one side of the coin, what the two of you do. Srinidhi represents the other side of the coin, which is the aggregation and the collection, and that behavior is a big part of that, especially in a country like India, where plastics are just thrown out of a car window also, a moving car. I mean, the number of times you see it, just forget about everything else. Yeah, on the road, it's very difficult to. So the collection of batteries, a collection of plastic. I mean, how easy is it? Has it proved to be, and how scalable is this model? Of course, we've always had the kabadiwala model in India, in the sense we've been, but and if you remember, all our grandmothers were very particular about this. But that I don't see that any longer. In the sense, the kabadiwalas who come to and even people collecting it, it's sort of that practice has gone. So how do we bring that practice back in India, and how do we scale this model of collecting, sorting?
Right. So yeah, they don't come to like on door-to-door collection, but I think there still exists a very strong network of kabadiwalas. 90% of the waste in India is through the informal economy, even as we speak, right? So yeah, I think what they require is a bit of handholding, a bit of streamlining the process of collection, and you see that, right? In some of the plastics, the stream is very well set up, right from the collection to the recycling stage. And some of the plastics are people are still understanding. The use case for it, the technology may not be existing as of today, but it's evolving. I can give you our case study in terms of scale. 6 years back, when we started, we had just one center and doing a few hundred, tons of plastics. So today we are working at scale. We are working across 11 different cities across India, and every year we have seen a 3x growth of our volume, and every year we have seen 2x growth in terms of the brands that we serve. We work with the largest cosmetic brand in the world, L'Oreal. We serve them, and all their shampoo bottles are made from plastics collected by Plastics for Change. That's one example. We work with many other brands like that. The Body Shop. We are in talks with IKEA. We work with Estee Lauder company. Again, so we have seen that scale, but it requires support. It requires a bit of handholding. My friend Arun is here. He calls it the viability gap funding. So it requires even that to kickstart. For example, we always say that give us 2 years or 3 years in a supply chain, because the system takes time to move. The system takes time. People take time to get adjusted to the new ways of working. Now we are trying to change a completely informal sector into organized one, and that requires some time. It requires some hand holding, incentivization of behavior. You go to a kabadiwala and you say, you put this on the app, we'll pay you through the bank system in a formal way. They'll say the trader doesn't require all this, and you're asking me not to employ child labor, you're asking me not to do this, so it's very easy for the informal sector to remain informal. So what's the incentive for them to change, right? So I think that's where the gap is, and we need to work on that.
So what role does policy? I mean, this is again a question for all of you. Regulation, policy, and corporate partnerships. Actually, what role does this play in scaling up all these and making these more ubiquitous, and or we need this everywhere all the time. So how does policy and
I think in batteries, it's a massive push. I mean, the policy has a massive impact. Partly because I guess all of us, reflected on the point that it has to be still unit economics positive, right? I mean, for these activities to go on without philanthropic support. But end of the day, in complex supply chains we all operate in, it is building efficiency in the supply chain, which needs scale, which means that apart from the corporates having the CSR based or just for the sake of greenwashing, participating in it, but see actual value to them and their customer, so that the whole supply chain gets stitched.
Mm.
And and yes, some viability gap funding, etc., is required. But in batteries specifically, it's more to do with building a structure where you enforce that, okay, a certain set of percentage of the vehicle is supposed to have recycled batteries. Point number one. Second, build a mechanism where people adopt, or you adopt these energy storage systems, because these are multiple benefits. You reduce the import from China on these assets. Like, to give you an example, 2030, we are likely to have probably about 10 gigawatt hour of waste batteries coming in, which is probably going to cover a good number of tier 3 cities entirely. So the volumes are huge. Unfortunately, we still don't see the impact from the view of the policymakers. They're still lagging. Yeah, I mean, it's 5-6 years now. Almost I visited every ministry possible in Delhi.
Really?
But it's just not possible for them to see it entirely. So they are their silos in them. So with respect to EV battery circularity, there is a huge.
But what about distribution? The batteries that you all recondition, do you distribute them yourselves to the
As
little
of now,
villages
yes.
and
Yeah.
Jharkhand and
Yeah, we do have the direct relation with these companies who operate microgrids, and now we have set up supply chain for the home market. But these supply chains exist in some way or the other from lead acid ecosystem. It's just that we have some unique requirements. But that's not a challenge. The moment there is a policy structure in place, I think all of this will evolve very, very quickly. But there needs to be a mandate that
Yeah.
you cannot waste the battery coming out of EV. Repurposing is mandatory. I think EU
yes,
has done
absolutely, yeah.
it. Like 2026 onwards, there is a mandate that you cannot waste the battery. So then you have all these things falling in line, maybe overnight as well.
So there is a regulation for plastic waste. It's called as EPR, Extended
Mm.
Producer Responsibility. So there is 3 categories government has created. Something called as producers of plastic, importers of plastic, and brand owners who use plastic. And there is mandatory requirement for them to either use recycled content or recycle their own products, or ensure that they purchase some certificates that someone else has recycled. Now, if you see this policy, it looks nice, but the issue is enforcement. So,
Yeah.
if you see the market of these certificates, they are selling at 1 rupee per kg. So, why it is doing? Because it's a demand supply issue. There is no demand for this certificate because government is not enforcing. So, under the regulation, there is something called as environmental compensation. So, if you don't comply to these percentages, which is going to increase every year, it started with 30%, next year 40%, next to next, its plan up to 2029 is to go up to 60%. So whoever is not complying will be having an environmental compensation penalty. And to comply, they will have to purchase certificates. So recyclers like us can get some money on the certificates that by we gain. But there is no demand today because there is lack of enforcement. So my view is that government should really, if you make a law, then ensure that there is enforcement. It's same like all other laws, there is a law, but people don't follow. So there has to be enforcement. And I think once enforcement comes, it will definitely work.
So yeah, just to build on that, right? And that's a great example. So you have EPR, it all looks good on paper. And the government came out with a mandate that, the brand owners can use up to 30% recycled content in food contact material, right? In your water bottles, CSTs, carbonated soft drink bottles. But India has just 2 approved recyclers. Okay, so there's 25 in the pipeline. Why? Because there's no capacity in the government to go and audit these facilities and approve them. And between the two, they have about 1 lakh metric ton of capacity. But guess what? How much is needed? About 4.5 lakh tons of material is needed to make this happen. So there's a huge gap there in terms of what we see on the paper and what is actually implemented. I think we need to close that gap. We need to fast track some of these, approvals, and it just gets stuck in the bureaucracy.
Yeah, it actually hasn't. It's an old story. It's not that it hasn't changed.
That
Yeah.
part hasn't changed,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
unfortunately. No. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the audience soon, but I have one last question. I said I'd come back to you on because we have incineration and biomethanization, and there's always heat involved actually when you recycle plastic. It's not that recycling plastics is a new thing. So this whole molecular technology, which I'll never remember the full name, how is that different, and how is that, yeah, what's the breakthrough in that? I mean, because even the emissions from recycling plastic can be pretty harmful. And some plastic, when recycled, there's a continuous emission even in use, you know.
Probably you're asking me to reveal the entire science here. No, it's something which I will be very happy to explain. So, how do you imagine recycling plastic is? You feel that we mix plastic and then we cool it. It forms a shape that we want. It's not exactly what we do, because different plastics melt at different temperature. So when they are mixed together, they won't melt. And if I try to melt the lowest one, there will be some plastics not melted. If I melt the highest one, some plastic will be degraded. So here is our patented technology. We actually use mechanical forces to bring those molecules together. So imagine that one molecule of one plastic, another molecule, another, you bring them together, mix them mechanically at the molecular level. So basically, we don't really need that much heat. We force them into their place. So that's why we don't have that degradation issue. Secondly, you said about emissions. So when you even heat plastics, there are harmful gases that are emitted. Uh, so what we do is that we do it in a negative pressure. So when this process is happening and some amount of heat is imparted by us uh, intentionally, we have a negative pressure zone which sucks out these emissions and captures them and only releases air to the environment, which is safe. Thirdly, when any kind of plastic is there out there, even in your car, if you park your car in sunlight and you come back and sit in your car, you'll smell something. What
Yeah.
exactly are you smelling? Even your plywood, you lock your house and you go out. When you come back to your house, you smell something different in your house. These are called volatile organic compounds. Basically, your plywood has formaldehyde in it. Your plastics in your car, they emit volatile organic compounds. So again here, when we are recycling plastic, we compound them so well and we extract all the volatiles while processing, that once produced, it emits nothing. We have done tests from CPET, TUV, and we have reports to prove that nothing will ever escape from this in gaseous form or in physical form. That's how we ensure.
Oh, great. Your trade secret is still safe. I didn't understand the science. So, so I won't be, yeah, but I'm glad you're doing it. Okay, we're going to open it to the audience now. Questions, yeah. Can someone, yeah.
Hi, fantastic set of panelists, and
Yes, I agree.
yeah, I mean, I've never seen three circular economy concepts coming together. I feel one is very long shelf life, and the other is reuse. It's nothing better than that, and obviously bottle to bottle, product to product. I have a larger question. If I can zoom out of all of your specializations and look at waste management as a citizen, do you ever think that, I mean, these initiatives are very few and far apart. Do you ever think that we're going to reach a tipping point quickly where circular economy concept starts to become reality? I mean, maybe most of us in this room are, advocates of reuse, etc., refill, etc. But do you see that coming? And what are the signs? I know it's a very weird question, but unless there is a tipping point, we're not going to get there at that scale at which we need to get, right? Any thoughts around that will be very.
No, we face this challenge every day. I think that's one of the problems that all of us face, is that I don't know how to say this, but I think a lot of people are selfish. They know they're doing harm to the environment, but they care for their own benefit. And it's not happening anytime soon, unless awareness, and people should believe that, we are not leaving a healthy planet for our future generations. How come we cannot think that? I mean, we all have future generations to leave behind us, and we should leave a planet in a better condition for a future generation than we inherited from our family. But somehow, like, even when this product is perfectly competing with the virgin material, and I experience this with procurement guys, they'll not buy for 200 rupees, they'll ask 200 rupees discount, otherwise they'll like, no, you won't win, even against a virgin product. So that's selfish behavior, because you are not adopting a sustainable solution because you want to currently focus on your profitability. And to this awareness, I think it's only the children. I think if you bring this in the schools, I mean, many of you would have talked to small children these days. They will feel bad when a tree is cut. They will see plastic waste, they'll feel bad. So I think it's a generational game. The next generation will be much more aware and much more adaptive to this kind of circular solutions, is what I feel.
I think adding to what he said, responsible consumerism is a change which I think some of us are looking through it. But if you see stats from our end, if I have 100 queries, at least today 7 to 8 queries have come to us primarily because we are repurposing. So that's a positive sign. But end of the day, even individuals, when they want to buy repurposed, okay, give me 30% discount, 40% discount on the virgin battery. So that mindset is still there. I don't think it will go away very soon, as he mentioned. But purely from achieving scale, there's one benefit, or probably a blessing in disguise in lithium-ion battery is if you're an EV consumer and today you want to scrap battery, as I said, you almost get nothing, right? But if you choose to give it to a repurposing company like ours, probably we can give you, if you have to take a general reference, if it's a car battery, let's say a new battery costs you 3 lakh, a replacement battery. Your recycling scrap would yield you 3-4 thousand. Maybe I can give you 50,000 rupees, somewhere maybe here plus or minus. So that incentive of generating a residual value or a buyback is pushing the EV consumer to be more responsible. So that's so that unit economics for him is better. So there is a incentive for him to be responsible. At the same time, the OEM wants to create programs to capitalize this 50,000 rupees, to tell the guy that okay, the next battery I'm going to give you a discount. And with some EPR related mechanisms still existing in batteries as well, there is a possibility because of this inherent value this asset has, and it's a substantial value. And moving forward, for 4 years down the line, maybe a 3 lakh battery is already at 2 lakh rupees. So there is that gap which is reducing. So I think unless and until the battery materials crash completely and the new material itself is super cheap, which is theoretically a possible outcome, circularity in battery could be achieved faster than we think, because this economics forces the ecosystem to unite.
Srinidhi, do you want to add something?
Yeah, Arun, so two answers, one on a lighter note and one on a serious note. When oil wells go dry, I think that's when we can. But on a serious note, right, the moment we start taxing, at least from a plastics recycling perspective and circularity there, I think the moment countries start accepting and taxing virgin plastic, that's where the tipping point, and the consumers will also be open to shift towards recycled. And we are seeing that, in those countries where there's added tax on virgin plastic, and EPR was supposed to do that, but unfortunately, we all know. So yeah, I think that's a tipping point. It's coming, but I think I hear you. Maybe we resonate because we work in the same space. It's more, for me, it's not the question of if, but when, in terms of, I think, the speed of adoption. I think that's what we are looking at. And that takes, I don't know.
And I want to just quickly add my 2 bits here, because these things the economy has been structured in such a way, and it's been there for the past 150 years since industrialization started. It's going to take time to change, and I think the fact that we have 3 people sitting here is the early signs that things are changing. But and I think, but a lot of it really depends also on education. Our entire education system is really based on the fossil fuel economy. I mean, our education is geared to creating, I read a nice line that day, more mice for the rat race. So, so that has to change. And to that, I think, even in the audience here, there are a few people we are all part of a group called uh, Climate Educators Network, and few of us are working on education, hoping to change to to sort of influence curriculum, and yeah, so hopefully in another one generation we'll see some change.
Hello. Firstly, kudos to all of you and wish you all a lot of success. My question is primarily for Mr. Darshan, but of course, happy to hear everyone else's input. As someone who's interested in being a part of the battery harvesting or the recycling, upcycling value chain, and hypothetically has limited funds, how would you suggest they get started on day one? And what are some barriers to entry that they should be wary of?
The answer can take a day. But if it's to be, a few sentences, I think if the ecosystem today is so much better 10 years as compared to 10 years ago from an innovator's point of view, right? Or when you want to bring this change, I think there are a number of opportunities for you to get started from a idea on a paper to a proof of concept. There are a humpty number of support pillars around. And beyond that, I guess you just have to stay at the problem and be persistent. You will have a lot of challenges. People even laughing at you. Why are you even doing it? That's it. When we started in 2018, where we have no clue about lithium-ion battery, also, right? So unless you very much believe that you got something that could make a change and you're ready to hear 99 no's all across, then you should find your way, and there are enough good people who will support you.
This is actually a question for Srinidhi, because you work with the fast moving consumer goods, which are actually the biggest cause for pollution, to my mind. And now, because we know each other for a long time, I know what you're doing. All these brands, L'Oreal, Body Shop, Procter & Gamble, and whatnot, I mean, through working with you and maybe even with other organizations, have they not recognized that there needs to be a significant change at the design level and the design of packaging? Because what you are trying to do is to cater for the specification of a L'Oreal specific shampoo. It's not even only L'Oreal, but it's that particular brand of L'Oreal who has a specification, and the Body Shop and this and that. I mean, is there not some sort of a realization that they also need to start consolidating their packaging and
Yeah,
streamline, so to speak?
fantastic question, Miriam. Thanks for asking that. So, first challenge was, how do we get the internal teams of a particular brand aligned? You know, sustainability team, they used to talk in a different tangent. The purchasing team used to talk in a different language. Marketing team wanted their own stuff, right? So at least we have gained traction and we are getting that going, where they can, first of all, know what they want and why they are investing in recycled content. Why do they want that feedstock? So that part was the first question. The second question now is, how can we work with the brands for better design, right from stage of design stage, to make it more viable for circularity, right? So, and we have started working. Case in point, the Body Shop. They are now designing body butter jars where they want to have the entire product made of one type of one family of plastic, or maybe at the max two, which is again compatible. PET, and the cap is also PET, and the label is of maybe paper. So things like this have started, which honestly speaking is a very big problem. Companies like FMCG companies, like let's say Coke, you have 4 or 5 different types of material in one bottle, and that's a huge challenge. So if we can work with them and collectively and seeing how we can design products better for not just recycling, but right from collection to recycling. And that's the need of the hour. And that will have a huge impact and a boost towards circularity.
Can we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
So hi, this is Rishabh. So actually, we are building a startup called Daily Pay, where we are into circular economy in packaging industry. So you might be knowing pallets, wooden pallets, and the plastic pallets, which actually we refurbish and rent it. So indirectly, we never manufacture new, and we never recycle or nothing to be recycled again using energy. So my question for you guys is, one is in sense of battery. Now there is a consideration turning lithium ion batteries into the other sectors rather than using lithium ion. They are planning to energize the products without using any kind of lithium batteries. You might be knowing Oorjaa is also one of those kinds. And the second thing for plastic, so as recycling companies you are recently, it was a prior when we were refurbishing, there was a no option for a refurbishing the PET bottles or any of the FMCG products and can be used again. But just this year, they launched that we can reuse the Pepsi bottles or the plastic bottles again rather than recycling. So this actually Coca-Cola is also taking a action. PepsiCo, the both company, I mean the single company which PepsiCo is planning to take a action rather than recycling, reusing. So what sort of thinking you give here? It's better for PepsiCo to reuse or recycle?
If I've understood correctly, your comment was that there are other chemistries which are coming up apart from lithium. Yeah, I mean, right from the research labs to a few early stage prototypes are there, which use sodium and a few more, may have better recycling prospects. However, the journey from a lab prototype to a full scale production, especially in this industry, is anywhere between 6 to 8 years, in a most aggressive nature. So it takes quite a bit of time and significant investment to bring a novel chemistry to reality. And the industry would do it if they have recovered the existing investments. So it's a journey, from a purely a student of science, very happy to see if there is something which is completely recycled or has a longer lifetime. But it has a journey of its own. I hope I have answered your.
Yeah, and with respect to whether reuse or recycling, so I'll ask a question to you. If you drink Pepsi and you get one more bottle which says this has been just cleaned and given back to you, would you take it? Yeah. Yeah, that's what companies are doing. They're recycling the bottles now. They're collecting it back and recycling. Yeah. Recycling, simply because you can work at scale. You know, it becomes a question of scale.
Taking the opportunity of a question, I want to introduce a concept called waste management hierarchy. So in waste management, there is a hierarchy. First is reduce, so avoid using certain kind of material. Second is reuse. Then there is recycle, there is recover, and there is dispose. So first three you would have understood. Recover is you use it as energy. Basically, you burn it for energy purpose. Last is dispose. Nothing can be done. So what you are asking is that is recycling better or is reuse better? So in hierarchy, reuse is better. And it is at the consumer level, the onus is on the consumer to reuse. But if reuse can't be done, recycling is a better solution rather than recover or dispose. That's how I would answer it.
Yeah, actually, I grew up in a world where we reused because they were glass bottles. So it went back, and we were incentivized to return the bottles to the grocery store and Coke and Pepsi and all that. And then, yeah, so the reuse was there. But we have time for one last question. Sorry. Oh, here he is.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Srinidhi, Vishal, and Darshan for sharing the inspiring circular stories. I have two-part question for Darshan. One is, I mean, this is close to my heart because I had an opportunity to work on battery passport. So when you get batteries, there is also a possibility that you could put it back to the same application as refurbishing and remanufacturing. How do you qualify when you get 100 batteries? Do you take all the 100 batteries for second life, or do you also qualify for refurbish and remanufacture?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to do it for Jenny, but we have done it for some another 200 cars
Okay.
for Tata. And to give you a reference, I think the first one we refurbished was in second half of 2022, and that's probably after a few 70,000-80,000 kilometers they have given the way to us. And January we got the battery back after about 75,000.
Okay, maybe with my battery you can try for third life. I'll bring it back to you. Okay, since we have only one more question,
The
can
second
we
part.
just... Oh, second.
The-
No,
sorry.
she has a question. Yeah.
The second part is, as you already mentioned, that EU has come up with the battery regulation, and by 2027 they need to have this. I think India has also recently spoke about battery Aadhaar, and eventually they will also have to come up with the regulation. So how are you preparing yourself for getting back the battery and recycling the materials?
So battery Aadhaar is 4 years of advocacy, and we are one of the consortium partners designing this from the ecosystem point of view. I think still primitive steps. If you want to truly repurpose, which is reuse back into the vehicle, then decide which of them can be repurposed into an ESS, and make that decision making value chain very efficient. We need a lot more data than just what publicly is possible to share on a battery Aadhaar platform. So to create value out of this information, we need more strategic alignment with the stakeholders like OEM and companies, so on and so forth. So it's a step one, much needed, but we have to cover some more distance to really bring battery circularity within the ecosystem.
Okay, should we just take one more? Oh, okay. She had a hand up here. Okay. Yeah. Can you ask one?
Okay. So I think from a data standpoint, for someone who might want to, enter this ecosystem, do you think there is sort of enough data from a recycling circular economy perspective? And is it government data, or do you think there is, enough to sort of start, especially for plastics for change, for instance, because you work largely with the unorganized sector. So, picking coastal regions as, for example, was a decision that you would have taken. So how did that come about? And, if any of you can sort of chip in on what are good sources of starting off data for someone who might want to look at this sector.
Sure. So one good start point was we look at obviously what every waste management company would do. Look at the consumption trends, look at the population, that's the start point. Look at the consumption trends. And then if you want data on waste generation, there's a decent amount of data out there. One is the Central Pollution Control Board. They issue the annual reports. So does every state. They have their annual reports. Now, the accuracy of the data is different. Okay, that's one point. And the second point is that we undertook extensive field work, mapping the scrap shops and trying to understand, literally going there and weighing, at every scrap shop, the waste generation that happens on a day-to-day basis, weekly, monthly, then extrapolating, and then forecasting, everything comes into picture. So if you are relying on secondary data, it is there, but I think I would still do it the old way, just go to the field. That's the best way to understand the sector, the area that you want to work in.
Yeah, I think pollution control board data is something which you can start with, but as I said, accuracy is a serious problem because people incinerate waste. They actually just burn on the roads outside across India, even villages. So it's a problem. Accuracy is a big problem. I think the real area where startups have a huge solution provide, like if you want to provide a solution as a individual or startup, is track and trace. Basically, we need to create data. So that's a problem, that is a better problem to solve than actually interpret data, because we know that we do more than 4 million metric ton of plastic waste a year. We know this number. It's so huge that current recycling system is not even nearby. So I don't know what more we can do with that data right now. But what is important is to have a whole traceable system, that every waste that is generated, what happened to that waste. So that tracing system is where something real, somebody can just innovate.
So yeah, so thank you very much, all three of you. I think it was an extremely interesting and a hopeful. I think it gives us hope. And as exciting as these innovations are, I think the road ahead is really long and winding. And as he said, we've got to reach a tipping point. We've got to change education, and I think so far it's quite clear that sustainable solutions are not yet sustainable. Green is not yet green. We really have a long way to go because of the science, the processes, behaviors are, and and to me there is there's nothing in the hierarchy. I think consuming less is probably number one. And I have a 6-year-old. We've got to so far we really have to. I think whatever we do, we've got to embrace the fact that less is more and less. And we've got to, in the words of my 6-year-old granddaughter, let's make it really cool. Just consuming less. Yeah, she comes and always tells me it's really cool, Mama. So we've got to make consuming less really cool. Thank you.